AC/DC Reads is a one-woman bassoon reed workshop in Minnesota run by Dr. Ariel Detweiler, producing over 1,500 reeds per year. Selling beginner bassoon reeds, advanced bassoon reeds, and contrabassoon reeds, AC/DC Reads are hailed by customers for their even intonation, ease of response in all registers, warm tone quality, and strong low register. Every reed is made from tube cane processed in-house to Ariel's specifications using Rigati or Lavaro cane and a Rieger 1A shape. You'll also find bassoon-themed gifts in the shop, including greeting cards, stickers, artistic prints, and the ever-popular Black Wing bassoon pencil. Make sure to follow AC/DC Reads on Instagram, where Ariel posts artistic photos and educational stories about her everyday experiences with reed making. AC/DC Reads is a proud sponsor of Double Reed Dish, sharing positive and uplifting interviews to inspire and connect the bassoon community around the world. Find AC/DC Reads at www.acdcreads.com or at retailers like Chemical City Double Reeds, Midwest Musical Imports, or Reed Supplies Canada. Try out AC/DC Reads today and let the reed do the work.
Consider buying your processed oboe and bassoon cane from those friendly folks over at Barton Cane. Processed with care and precision for your everyday reed making needs. Take the pain and injury out of reed making by letting Barton Cane do the hard, repetitive, boring stuff. Free up time for practicing, happy hours, hikes, baking, and spending time with friends and family. Barton Cane, here for you. Visit www.bartoncane.com.
Hi, I'm Galit Kaunitz.
And I'm Jackie Wilson, and you're listening to Double Reed Dish,
a podcast for oboists,
bassoonists,
and the people who love them.
Hear that, we'll have to see, but if you can, those were the dulcet tones of the Colorado State Double Reed Day Double Reed Ensemble,
and we are together in person,
side by side,
staring deeply into each other's eyes.
Oh yes.
Sitting outside of Double Reed Ensemble rehearsal with our Panera to go.
Yes. We had to have priorities. So we said, we'll be right back. We got to pick up lunch.
But we have had an incredible time. Performance, masterclass, panel on making a life in music. The students here have been so much fun, and the weather is amazing.
Except I have to be honest, my lips are so chapped.
We're in Fort Collins, Colorado. We are a mile in the air, and we're both feeling it, I think.
Yes. Thankfully, I chose to play a piece that's very you don't experience a pulse, and it's kind of like this event and then rest and then this event. So it's very I think it would have been really difficult to play something taxing, just like being thrown into this altitude. But just something to keep in mind for Flagstaff. Basically, I'm using this experience as a barometer for okay, Flagstaff is going to be twice as worse. So what is this experience? So I guess number one on my mind is bring your chapstick to Flagstaff.
Bring your water.
Yes. I have been hydrating pretty well, so I'm not feeling that.
Yep.
And I don't, knock on wood, tend to suffer from altitude sickness because my in-laws lived around around Fort Collins. So I've been at this altitude several times, and thus far I've never had altitude sickness. So, but I know some people are predisposed to that or tend to get it, and that's such a bummer.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed, we will all be just fine for IDRS 2024.
Yes.
But we went to dinner last night.
We had the best time.
And our host's Apple Watch was notifying her that the decibel level was climbing. And it was reaching a dangerous sonic level because we were laughing.
So loudly.
So loudly.
I mean, we were having the best time. We were laughing and people were like turning around and looking at us in this restaurant, like causing a scene. And then, yeah, her Apple Watch was like, danger, danger, the decibel level. It's like, oh God, that's pretty good.
But do you know what's pretty cool that happened today is I got to perform the piece that you wrote for me. I got to perform it for you.
Yes, it was beautiful. It was very kind of like surreal. I've coached my piece in master classes, but I've never been at like a concert where one of my pieces is being played. That was a first for me.
Yeah, that was really great. It was like you wrote a friendship love letter to me, and then I got to return it.
Aww.
Today.
It didn't get lost in the mail. But you know what did get lost?
What?
Us. When we rented a car and we were drove by the School of Music, Theater and Dance, and our host Kayla had said, yeah, there's going to be a parking garage. And so we were like, oh, there it is. Go in,
oh my God.
Park in the parking garage, walk out, and proceed to walk in the opposite direction.
For a long time.
It was like 20 minutes.
We were not even close. And we both had our phones out with our navigation on.
That's how directionally challenged we were. And it wasn't great because we didn't get it. We got in relatively late yesterday, went to dinner. We didn't get a chance to play. Mm-hmm. Neither of us live at this altitude. And we arrived a little late before the opening recital. I don't know about you, but I was like, I hope my reeds work. Yeah. And thankfully I did find one that was vibrating well enough. But I was just like, oh, I didn't think we were cutting it close. We left quite early, but then we went on a little 20-minute walk around Fort Collins unknowingly. But it all worked out. Okay.
Oh my God. And then last night we stayed up way too late just chit-chatting at our Airbnb.
Yes.
And we had to wake up at 5 a.m. so that we could go get a delicious breakfast before.
Yes. So we could be here early was the whole point of waking up that early. Was so we could be responsible and wake up that early.
And then we just took a little tour of the beautiful Colorado State University campus.
And we have the panel coming up, and then we have to hit the road immediately. Going. Like, we will have been in Colorado for, I think, fewer than 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Because I have a student who won a concerto competition, and his concert is a Sunday early matinee. Mm-hmm. So I had to get an evening flight out of Colorado. So, yeah, we got in last night, drove in, had dinner, woke up, played masterclass, lunch, panel, hit the road, and we're out of here. It's such a whirlwind trip.
But really fulfilling and really fun at the same time.
Absolutely. And the best part is yet to come, because I got a notification yesterday.
I'm so scared.
That I have been upgraded.
Oh, that's right.
To, I think it's called business class now, but when I was growing up, they called it first class. That's right. And that makes me feel really bougie. So we're just going to go back to calling it, I think it's probably a little problematic to call it first class. But whatever, the seats at the front that are padded and cushy and comfortable.
And I was like, you could just be one of those people who's just sitting and watching everyone file in.
Oh, yeah. What row are you in? 20?
I'm in row 3.
Oh, yes. Only single digits over here. But I, to be fair, I have been a United Mileage Plus devoted member for like 12 years. And this is the first time I've ever been upgraded. So I feel like I've put in my time.
Worth it.
But I'm so excited.
Yeah.
It's never happened to me before. So I'll have to tell you what it was like. But
I can't wait.
I was like, oh my God. So
I'm so fancy.
I'm so excited. Yes. So I'll just have to tell you all how it is to live the high life.
She's just better than everyone.
What's the view like from up there?
From row 3.
The view from row 3. The Jackie Wilson story.
It's your memoir.
Chemical City Double Reeds is a full-service double reed shop specializing in the sale of instruments, cane, accessories, and sheet music. Double Reed Dish listeners can enjoy free shipping with code DRDISH, all caps, no spaces. Visit them in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or online at chemicalcityreeds.com.
Specializing in the finest assortment of oboes, clarinets, bassoons, and their accessories, RDG Woodwinds serves musicians from around the world. Their employees are all professional musicians who have a deep knowledge of the products they sell. RDG's repair shop has an international reputation with a combined 100 plus years of experience among the 5 repair technicians. Plain and simple, RDG provides excellent products and fabulous customer service. Visit them at rdgwoodwinds.com. They look forward to working with you. We are absolutely delighted to welcome to the podcast Margaret Cookhorn, Principal Contrabassoon and Bassoon with the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra. Welcome, Margaret.
Hello. Thank you for this opportunity to have a good old natter. Thank you.
We always love to start by asking our guests how they began playing their instruments. So could you tell us how you got started with the bassoon?
Sure. So actually, before learning the bassoon, I actually had piano lessons age 5 or 6. I had private piano lessons. And then the primary school I went to had a whole family of recorders. So I started off with Descant and worked my way through the treble, the tenor, the bass, and of course with tiny hands then trying to stretch those holes. I was having a whale of a time playing the bass, the tenor and the bass recorders. And then when I went to senior school, a new music wing was built onto the school, and the school was given a flute, oboe, clarinet, bassoon, violin, viola, cello, double bass. And initially I wanted to learn the oboe, but somebody else had beaten me to it. So I thought, well, what's that shiny thing in the case? Oh, that looks really nice, bassoon. I'll learn that. So that's how I started learning the bassoons. I'd have lessons after school. They were free lessons, and I had those lessons. In fact, it was the oboe teacher who taught me the bassoon. And I had lessons with him up until I went to the Royal Northern College of Music in Manchester. And when I went to Manchester, I had a great time playing. I just played. I just lived for playing. I didn't want to sit and write essays. I just wanted to play. Had a great time. And then during my 4th year, my final year, that was when the job in the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra was advertised. And I applied and I got it whilst I was a postgraduate student. Wow. The conductor at that time being Simon Rattle.
Yeah, I've heard of him. I heard he's okay.
He's mellowed. No, he's fine. He's fine.
So when did you kind of think or feel or decide that you wanted to be a professional musician? When did that enter your thinking?
Well, interesting. Looking back, when I applied for music college, I just wanted to do music, and orchestra was actually not even on my radar at that time. It was just going, and just every day I would be playing in ensembles, chamber music, just anything to do with music and playing the bassoon. I thought, this is great. I think it was kind of like the social side of it. So before going to music college and being in the local youth orchestra, we would have residential weekend courses twice a year, so I think the social side of it, and do music from, early in the morning until bedtime. I just loved it. It wasn't until about my 3rd year when I started getting freelance work with other orchestras in the northwest of the UK, with Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra, with Opera North, orchestras like that. That's when I thought, I quite like this orchestra thing, because I think initially I thought even if I just did a career, just even teaching music, I'd be very happy. But the actual playing in an orchestra, the more I did, I thought I quite like this playing in an orchestra, actually doing that. So I for me, I think a lot of it comes down to a lot of luck as well. The fact that I saw the advert in the paper, because nowadays everything's online, but back in the day, there would only be one newspaper in the UK that would advertise orchestral positions on a Saturday. And you'd always go and buy this particular paper and the jobs would be advertised. Of course, that doesn't happen now.
I would love to hear about the audition process for your job.
So this was a long time ago. I'm not going to give years away now. It will make me feel really, really old. But when I auditioned, I think it was because I was still in playing mode. Because I think as a student, when you come towards the end of your student life, I mean, you're playing, your stamina is at its height, really. And so when I applied for CBSO, it's actually my second audition. And of course, in those days, you'd be sent the excerpts. And oh, yes, by the way, I didn't have my own contrabassoon. I forgot to mention. I was using the college's. So I said to college, I said, can I borrow this contra for the audition? I said, yeah, that's fine. So I had I had a Fox Renard bassoon then, my Fox Renard and the contra, and got them on the train and brought them down to Birmingham. And the excerpts, and when I went in the audition room, there was the woodwind section on the panel, and I was the first one to audition as well.
Wow.
So yeah, there we are. And then they chose 5 of us. In the UK, we don't do auditions where they have a winner. We choose, 2 or 3, or maybe nobody. They choose a certain number, and then they are invited to work in the orchestra. So even though I was first to audition, I was the final candidate to go on trial, as it were, and play in the orchestra. And then I was asked back to do Mahler 6 with Simon Rattle conducting. And then I was asked to do more work, and then offered me the job. So there we are. That seems like a long time ago. It's a bit more complex, I believe, nowadays. But yes, yeah.
Were you always interested in the contrabassoon? How did you kind of get started in that? And did you consider it like a specialty that you intentionally pursued? Or can we talk about how that instrument kind of came to prominence in your career?
Okay, so when I went to the Royal Northern, I went with I had a Czechoslovakian bassoon, actually. That was my parents bought me this bassoon. I didn't have a contra. In fact, I hadn't seen a contra until I actually went to music college. So I was 18 at the time when I actually took it up. And I persuaded the head of woodwind, please, can I start my lessons towards the end of my first year? Because normally you would start lessons for your allied instrument in second year. But I said, no, I want to start earlier because I quite like the idea of playing the contra. So they allowed that. So I started lessons in the summer of my first year, and I thought, this is great. This is really good. And I would have 30 minutes every week. I believe now that's not the case with allied instruments. The number of lessons is really, really diminished. But I would always turn up for my contra. But I never saw it as a specialism. I mean, I enjoyed playing both. And my bassoon teacher always encouraged me to keep my bassoon playing going and not just see the contra as a special thing. So the fact that I double, I really enjoy doubling. And I know a lot of my contra colleagues in the profession don't like doubling. But I quite like it, actually. I like the challenge. If I just played contra all day or bassoon all day long, I think I'd get a little bit bored. I like the challenge of, right, I've got 3 bars to change, or I've got 4 bars to change, and all that kind of thing. No, I really like it. So I don't see it as a specialism. I suppose as time has gone on, maybe I see myself more as that. But I think because I got the job so young, I was 22 when I got the job, that, it's just part of me, and that I still do both.
So I know I'm the oboe half of this duo, and switching from oboe to English horn is, like you say, a challenge. So can you maybe talk more about like the strategies that you employ when you're kind of trying to balance the read making and the practicing and the logistics of managing two instruments and trying to play them at the highest possible level?
Well, I try not to think too much about the reed thing. I mean, my contra teacher always used to say, just blow the thing. So I think that's what I do. I just, you just pick up the bassoon, play it, put it down, pick up the contra, blow it, and not think about it. I think there's too much thinking going on these days. I get people writing to me or emailing me saying, oh, what's the fingerings and all that. You haven't got time. And I think the most important thing, particularly with contra playing, is that if you have one set of fingerings, you just get on with it. You see, that's all. It's just keeping things really, really simple.
I love that.
The other thing as well, I think people think, it feels weird when you've got the contra reed, then you put the bassoon reed in. And I just think, no, you can't think like that. You just go in, just get it and just blow.
So it's like more of an improvisatory mindset.
I think so. I've never really thought of it like that, because maybe it's because I've never really thought of it. I mean, it's just in my DNA, I suppose, to play both instruments. And I'm sure in the bassoon family, if there were more, I'd play them all, like the clarinet family,
Yeah.
If there was a similar thing in the bassoon, I would do them all.
That's a cool comparison.
Just one. Yes.
Yeah.
So you started your job very early, at least for, in the US, someone starting 21, 22, it's kind of like not a child prodigy, but it's early, right? It's early. And so I wonder, and especially playing for someone like Simon Rattle and starting you know what I mean? Like, can you talk to us about the learning curve, or what you learned professional versus student life, being kind of thrown in the deep end like that?
That's quite an interesting question, because students say to me, is there kind of a transition when being from a student into being in an orchestra full time? And I said, no, there isn't. You just get on with it. You just go from one to the other, really. I'm just trying to think what happened. I mean, when I was appointed, Simon Rattle in those days would actually appoint people. I mean, that doesn't happen now in the orchestra. That power has been taken out of a conductor's contract. But when Simon Rattle was music director, he would decide who would be appointed. You just reminded me of one thing, actually. When I did get the job, one of the things I wanted to do was to maybe have some bassoon lessons, just to keep things going, And I remember going to one of the bassoonists, one of the principal bassoon players in London, and I said, any chance I could have a lesson? They went, no. What do you mean, no? He said, no. He says, you've got a job now, get on with it. And I think looking back, he's just saying, okay, you've got a job, that's how you're going to learn. And I think you do learn a lot. It is a steep learning curve. I think the first year in the job was kind of like a complete blur, because I thought, oh my God, I've got a job in an orchestra. And when I joined 2 months later, the orchestra went to Japan, and then they did a European tour, and all these things were happening. And I just thought, and there was all these new pieces, and I was actually playing Mother Goose for the first time. I'd never played it as a student. And my first time was with CBSO, and it was being recorded, and you learn really, really quick. Oh, and also Ravel Left Hand as well. That was in a concert. We did an all Ravel concert where it was Bolero, both piano concertos of Ravel, and Alborada da Grazioso. It was all Ravel, and then we recorded them all. So I think you just kind of like got on with it, actually. Maybe looking back, that was the best way, because my contrabassoon teacher, who's since passed away now, he said some very profound things to me, like I would say to him, how does such and such a symphony, what's that like? He'll just say, it will play itself. That's all he would say. And looking back, maybe that's the best thing for him to say that to me, because it made me find out, what it is about the piece, rather than other people imposing, oh, this is really hard, or oh, we've got to
Mm-hmm.
watch out for bar, this, that, and the other. You've got to watch out for that. Oh, it's a nasty bit. My contra teacher never said that. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's up to me. So, I mean, yeah, I suppose that's what happened, really. Yeah.
I could really learn from that because I'm definitely guilty of, okay, you're playing this part. You're going to have to do this and this and this, and you're going to have to watch out for this. And you're going to.
My bassoon teacher was like that a little bit. Well, he was like that a lot, actually. But my contra teacher never was. So I discovered, I think during my time, I've discovered a joy for playing, I suppose, looking from a contra player's point of view, all the really hard stuff, like Beethoven 9, Mrs. Solemnis, contra parts that are very virtuosic. I love playing things like that. It's great for the fingers. And yeah, I enjoy the challenge, actually. Yeah.
I'm curious to get your take on, this is partly an extension of growing into the job, but, playing in an orchestra, the relationships that you build with your colleagues are really, really important. And I would love to get your thoughts on how to maintain those relationships and to keep them positive. You seem to be a really positive, happy, joyous person. And I would love to hear about, navigating what could be a potentially tricky situation in terms of orchestral politics in a way that is healthy and happy.
Well, I looking back, I think I've been really, really lucky. So when I joined the orchestra, the bassoon section that I was with, we worked together for 20 years.
Wow.
20 years. And the first bassoonist, I mean, he was incredible. I learned so much. Actually, I mean, the first bassoon, all of them, I learned a lot by just sitting and listening to their solos. And I think I'm lucky the fact I can listen to them in a rehearsal session, or I can just listen to them not being in the audience, but by working with them. And I take my hats off to them. The solos, day in, day out, they used to bring out all the time. I just learned a lot from them. And it's interesting now because we're getting the new wave of younger players coming in. And they'll come to me and they'll go, what was so-and-so like? Or what did, and I say, you know what? It will be fine. It's interesting. They're looking for reassurance of how they're doing. And a lot of them are doing incredibly well. I think these days there's more pressure with the younger generation. I don't know why. I don't know what it is, because the music's still the same. But I don't know whether it's because of social media and that kind of thing, and reviews being online, and there's more critics around. Whereas, when I started in the orchestra a long time ago, you'd get the review in the paper, and that's it. So the fact, yeah, I mean, I just learned a lot by working with incredible players. And I think that's one of the reasons I stayed in Birmingham, because I told everybody that I had the best contra job in the UK, and I still do. I still do have the best contra job. When I joined Birmingham, people who were in contra jobs around have either left the profession. It's interesting, my age bracket, a lot of them have left the profession, or got bored, or this. Whereas I feel that in Birmingham, I've had so many opportunities working with incredible, not only with musicians, but with incredible composers. Now, I don't know whether that's the Simon Rattle effect, the fact we had these amazing people come to Birmingham, and also UK-based people as well, whether that had something to do with it. But I felt, why go to London? There was just no need. It was just on our doorstep.
That is a perfect
question.
Yeah.
Perfect segue, actually. No, that's wonderful. And a perfect segue, because now I want to ask you about the Birmingham Contemporary Music Group. Can you tell us about that? That seems like such an awesome concept.
So, yes, of course. So when I joined the orchestra, 2 cellists had decided we should set up a contemporary music group. There is nothing going on in Birmingham. There was only the London Sinfonietta, but there was nothing going. And what was unique about the Birmingham Contemporary Music Group was that they wanted music written for the group. So they would commission from composers from all over the UK and further afield. They would write pieces, and to raise funding, they would sell units of the music called sound investments, or people were called sound investors, and people would like
adorable
chip in their little bit to raise the funding for a particular piece or whatever to take place. So through that, you know, we worked with people like Tom Addis, who's written amazing things. You must watch Exterminating Angel, fantastic opera, by the way. So, you know, and people, Oliver Nusson, who's since passed away, Harrison Birtwistle, who's since died. You know, it's interesting, all these people, Colin Matthews, or Mark Turnage, but then people from all over, and play their music. And since then also, one of the composers, Colin Matthews, wrote a piece for me. In fact, he gave it to me as a present. So he said, "Here you are." You can buy it now through Faber. It's called Two Studies for Contrabassoon, which he wrote for me, which is really nice. So the contemporary music group is. I just find that part of playing, because the other thing as well with Simon Rattle, we used to do a lot of contemporary music. He would bring it to the audiences of Birmingham, and we would have composers in residence. So Mark Anthony Turnage was one of them, Judith Weir was another, and then this is how I met a composer called John Woolrich, who subsequently wrote me a concerto, which is another story. But it was through meeting and working with them and talking about my instruments to them, that's how they were able to write great stuff. And also, I quite liked how they write for the contra as well. I think that's the important thing.
You know, you saying that reminded me that of the CBSO and Rattle and doing contemporary music, that there's a recording of the Barrio Sinfonia that I adore. Would that have been you playing on that recording?
That was just before I joined.
Okay.
So it was just before that was before I joined, because that Barrio Sinfonia was also coupled with Mahler 2. And that happened, it was before I joined. So. But I have done it since. It's a good piece.
It's a great piece.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's actually, again, the perfect segue, because I wanted to ask about some of the pieces that you have inspired and championing the contrabassoon as a solo instrument. You know, a lot of times we think of it as such an orchestral instrument, or something that people also do, with the bassoon being the, middle of the solar system. So can we hear a little bit more about the Matthews piece, and for people who are, maybe interested in checking that out?
So Colin Matthews wrote these two movements for contrabassoon. And one of the movements is called Margaret's Galliard. That's really sweet. And the other one's called Miss Cookhorn's Fancy, Fancie. I think they are derived from Elizabethan dances. And I played them at the IDRS when it was held in Birmingham in 2009. I think that was the last time IDRS came to the UK. So I played them there in a concert. I think the concert was called Best of British. So there was myself, and then there was some other UK players. But I thought I would introduce these pieces. And I think as a result of playing it there was called Why Isn't This Piece Published, you see. So that's when I persuaded Colin, please, can you publish them? Which he did.
Awesome. Well, we can link to that in the show notes, as well as the link on Faber to Falling Down by John Woolrich. Can you talk to us about that work? A concerto for contra and orchestra. Like, tell us more.
So I'll have to start from the beginning. So what happened? In the orchestra, we have chair endowers, people who sponsor our particular position. And my chair sponsors, they said to me, how would you like what would you feel about having a concerto written? And I went, who, me? And they said, yes, you. And I said, really nice. And then I asked them, who would you like as accompaniment? Would you like it contrabassoon and small ensemble, or contrabassoon and CBSO? And my chair endowers said, CBSO, of course.
Of course.
So I said to him, who would you like to write the piece? He said, you can choose whoever you like. So I thought, great. So the first thing I did is to write a list of all the people I didn't want to write. That's the first thing. I thought, right, no. So we had just done a piece with the contemporary music group called Bitter Fruit. It was a piece of music for ensemble and acting and puppetry, and John Woolrich had written the music for that, and his music, I mean, just the contrabassoon part was fantastic. He loves writing low notes. And so, right, I thought, I'm going to ask him. So I asked him and I said, will you write me a contrabassoon piece? And he went, sure, yes, please. So I was really happy. And he wrote it in about 3 months.
Wow.
And it was interesting. He wrote it really, really quickly. We got together in a Italian restaurant and we talked about what not to write and what to write. So I said I wanted something that was playable so that people in the future, it's not too difficult, because I have to say, quite a lot of contrabassoon concertos that I've seen, the manuscript, it's just too many notes, far too many notes. I wanted something that people can hear, hear the instrument. So he took 3 months, and I remember having a dream, actually, when I was waiting for the music to arrive, of me having to play the contra and then sing. I remember that dream vividly, thinking, I don't know what. And I remember then the music arriving at work, and I, got it, and I opened it up and looked through the score, and I thought, oh, it's fine. This is good. This is really good. So I first performed it at the IDRS in 2009. That's when I first did it. That was quite an interesting concert. So I played my piece, and then Jonathan Kelly, who you've interviewed, did the Strauss oboe concerto.
That's right, because he was in Birmingham before Berlin.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then Pascal Galois did Berio Sequenza, Berio Sequenza, the bassoon one. Mm-hmm. And then the orchestra played Stravinsky Firebird. So it was quite a concert, really. Wow. And I never thought in my time as a player ever going to the front of the orchestra to play. I have to say, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I even to what I wore, I bought Jimmy Choo shoes. I thought because I thought to myself, I may never have this opportunity again, so I'm going to make the most of it.
Right.
And it's one movement work, and the way it's written, and it's full orchestra, by the way. I mean, it's like 2 sets of timps. I mean, it's quite a large orchestra. And so what happens? The orchestra plays, and then I play, and then the orchestra plays. But then every time I play, the actual accompaniment is very, very sparse. So the contraline comes through, and then I'm not having to battle with, big brass and all that. So yes, I performed it in 2000, and I thought I had a great time. Whole family came, and I enjoyed the buzz of it. And then I thought, right, that's it. Probably won't play it again, And then the orchestra asked me to play it in 2014, which I did. And then after I did that, about a month later, that's when I got the call from the BBC to perform it at the BBC Proms in
Hello.
2015. When I got that, I screamed the place down. I tell you, I thought, what am I going to wear? That's the first thing. I didn't think about the piece. The piece, that's the easy bit. I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I going to wear? So that's me thinking, and then booking the hairdresser and the makeup lady and all that. That's more important. So that was kind of like the May of 2014. And then I took a conscious decision that from January of 2015, I would be practicing 6 days a week, right up until Celebration Day, which was July the 19th, 2015. So in January, it's interesting when you're booked as a soloist for something like the proms. I said, how many free tickets can I have? And they said, you can only have two. Like,
No.
one for a friend and one for your agent. I said, I don't have an agent. So they said, you can still have two anyway. So I think I ordered like 16 tickets, but I was able to get my ticket before it went on general sale. Anyway, so when it did go on sale, it sold out because the orchestra were also playing Beethoven 9. Now, I don't know if you know about the Royal Albert Hall in London. Capacity is about 7,000 people.
So you played a contrabassoon concerto for 7,000 people, plus everyone listening on the broadcast.
It's broadcast, right? They're always broadcast.
Yes, it's broadcast on Radio 3, yes.
That is amazing.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I mean, I had people in the orchestra who came to me and they said, were you not nervous? I said, look, I may never have this chance ever again. I'm making the most of it. And I remember walking on stage, walking to the very front of the stage to take my bow before sitting down. I thought, I'm making the most of this. And I absolutely loved it. I mean, it went so quickly. Looking back, I was absolutely exhausted because one of the things they don't tell you when you're doing a concerto is that you have to do it twice on the day because the BBC have to set it up and check for, do sound checks. And that's something I tell students to prepare for, is to, you may have to play it twice. I mean, I didn't do all of it in the rehearsal. It was kind of most of it. So they were happy, you know, with the sound checks and things like that. It was great. I wore all white in the end. But yeah.
So,
oh, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna interject with, I cannot imagine the number of young people you inspired to play the bassoon and the contrabassoon just by that one performance. And I need to know if you bought different shoes for each concerto.
And were they Jimmy Choo?
For the London one, no. I managed to get some gold shoes, sparkly shoes, because I've got to have my shoes.
Yeah.
So, so I didn't buy Jimmy Choos. I've still got my red Jimmy Choos from the first time, actually. But no, I had my nails done, everything done. No, it was quite an experience. I remember on the day of the concerto in the morning, because I had a rehearsal in Birmingham the day before, and then my husband and I travelled down to London, booked a hotel in walking distance of the Albert Hall, and on the morning, it was a Saturday, the prom, I think, or was it a Sunday? I can't remember. Anyway, we went to a restaurant for breakfast, and I thought, what shall I have? There was porridge and there was eggs, and I was going yum 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 for both, and that was it. That was it, really. And then went back to my room and just gently warmed up and practiced, and then did the rehearsal. It was an incredible experience, and I still can't believe that, you know, age whatever, to actually go into front of the orchestra. Because I talked to the contra colleagues and I said, would you do that? I went, oh, no, I wouldn't. I'd do it at a heartbeat. I would do it again. And I think that experience has changed me as a person. I think it's kind of like, I think it's great. I think everyone should do it. Most people, I think, would run out the door, but I thought it was just brilliant. Audiences are so friendly. And I remember the process of preparing for it, because it made me realize why what am I doing? Why am I doing it for? You know, the fact of the love of music. That's what I was doing it for. Yeah. And also stamina wise, it makes you really strong.
Hmm.
Really, really, really strong. You can play anything, you know.
Yeah, I guess
So
that's
yeah.
kind of what I was wondering about. I mean, I know you said people asked you if you were nervous, and it seems like kind of a secret of your success is not overthinking in the way that so many of us fall into. But did you have to kind of mentally and physically and even emotionally prepare for an opportunity like that?
Yes. So what I did in the UK when the proms are on, they televise quite a few of them.
Hmm.
And they televised a contemporary concert where there was some flute concerto. I can't remember it. And I thought, right, I'm going to record that because I want to see what it looks like from the Albert Hall so that when I practice, I can also visualise the Albert Hall. So even though I recorded that concert, I didn't watch it until nearer the time. The other thing I did, the year before my prom, I went to the front of the Albert Hall stage when the orchestra were there performing in rehearsal and just sat down and played the concert at the front just to see what it felt like. And I thought, this
Hmm.
feels really nice. But I've always had a thing about sitting at the front, though, you know, so I really like that. And then I think then the preparation began. I mean, it wasn't always the same piece every day. I would bring in lots of other pieces of music. I like playing Bach cello suites on the contra. I love playing, and this is a Simon Rattle thing. He used to get me to play bass parts on the contra within the orchestra. So sometimes in some of the Beethoven symphonies, I played the bass parts in Beethoven 4, Beethoven 7, um, within, because I think in those days they used to, I think there was an occasion where Beethoven wanted contras to play the bass part because they are written like string parts, the contra parts.
Mm.
That's why they're quite virtuosic. That's why I love playing them. So, I'd get bass parts and I'd play them Bruckner symphonies. Simon used to get me to play Bruckner bass parts in Bruckner symphonies on the contra because he wanted more richness of bass. So
Hmm.
I think that's where my love of playing bass parts comes from.
I would love to know about, okay, so it doesn't seem like you struggle too much with performance anxiety. Is that right?
Um, do I struggle with it? Not really. I think that the thing is, I'm just as an aside, when I'm
Uh-huh.
not playing the bassoon, one of the things I like to do is to exercise. I
Uh-huh.
like to go to the gym. I'm a bit of a gym bunny. And I think when I am there, that's where I'm doing a lot of my processing. And particularly on concert days, if I've got a really tricky concert, I will, because I'll have done the preparation beforehand, but in my head, I will think this is the way how I want it to go. So there's that going on because naturally everyone will get nervous at some point or another. You do. That's just the body's way of preparing itself
Hmm.
to prepare. Because I've done concerts when I haven't felt nervous, and I think those are the concerts where I don't play as well.
Mm.
Whereas at least when you've got that little bit of a buzz, it just keeps the focus. And I think people get more nervous if they haven't got their reeds sorted out. And I say
Mhm.
this with students: if you haven't got your reeds set up, or if you haven't got this right, forget it. You know, you
Mhm.
need to get all that sorted out. So I know exactly what reed, and usually I've got a sort of plan of what I'm going to do. If I'm going to change reeds at this spot, get ready for, and it's kind of like, stand by for, and here it comes, that kind of thing. I think that's the way that's what works for me.
Really going through that mental preparedness and also making sure that your reads are as you
They're
want them.
all ready.
Right.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And with conductors, don't look at them. Golden rule as time goes on, don't look at them. Some conductors are very unhelpful. Um, our wonderful music director at the moment, Kazuki Yamada, is just incredible, and also Andrews Nelsons, who's now at Boston and the Gewandhaus. He's one of our music directors. They just let you play. There are some conductors who kind of like try and control. You will do this. You will breathe here. You will da 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 da. Come the concert. No, 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 no. I'm going to do it how I want it. People say, won't you get into trouble? No, 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 that won't happen. No. Just smile sweetly and carry on.
That's such a good strategy.
Don't look at people.
That's called ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Okay, so you'd said that your advice to students is get your reads in order. So we need to ask about reads. Can you talk to us about, one, our listeners love the nerdy stuff, the shape that you use, the cane you're liking, that stuff. But also, I would be interested in your habits as, a professional who has to meet a certain standard regularly on two different double reed instruments. How do you approach that part of your job?
So when I joined the orchestra, I was making bassoon reeds, and I was making bassoon reeds because as a student, I couldn't afford the reeds that people were buying. That's what got me into reed making. It was a necessity. I couldn't afford buying these reeds from Germany, which a lot of people were. And contra reeds, my contra teacher actually gave me a couple of reeds. And then I maybe buy one reed. I didn't really have that many contrabassoon reeds. So when I got the job, I thought, I better sort this out. So I remember buying all the machinery in America, actually. I can't remember the guy's name. I don't know if he's still with us now. And continued making bassoon reeds. And with bassoon reeds, I really wanted to get them better because I'd ordered my first Heckel bassoon. So I was really getting into it. Contra ones, because I was now working, I was able to buy them in Germany. And so that came about. And then after a while, the supplier in Germany wrote to say, I'm not making them anymore. What am I going to do? So my husband said, well, if you teach me, I'll do it, because doing with two lots of reeds does take a lot of time. So I thought, okay, I'll show you what to do. So my husband, who's retired now, he's not a player. He played timpani and percussion in the orchestra. So I basically showed him the basics of how to make a reed. And with practice, he could actually make reeds. He would make the contra reeds and bassoon reeds. The only thing he didn't do was to cut the tip off. That was my department. And actually that saved quite a bit of time, because otherwise, you'd just be doing reeds all the time. So we were doing that. And then when my current colleague started, Nikolai, on first, when he started, he always buys reeds, but his reeds were fantastic. And I remember going to his house for a party, and he threw a reed out the window, and I went, "What did you do that for?" And he goes, "Oh, it doesn't work." I said, "Well, pass me all the ones that don't work." So he gave them to me, and I made them work. So I've been playing on them because the cane is fantastic. It's really good. He doesn't make his own, by the way. And I've now found another contra supply. So my husband does make reeds the odd occasion, but not so often. But over the years, when I did buy contra reeds, I used to buy them in bulk. So you kind of like eke them out, and different reeds have different things to say. And so, yeah, I've got reed boxes and reed boxes. And again, I try not to think. I think if I was just a bassoon player, I would get more twitchy about reeds, actually. Wanting things, but I think because I'm the third player, my setup tends to be, particularly for bassoon reeds, tend to be for low notes, quiet low notes. But then the thing is, when I play quiet low notes on the bassoon, they're not really low. I mean, if I'm going to play low notes, I'm going to play them on the contra. That's low. I like to remind my colleagues, particularly in my colleagues who sit in front of me, when they see a middle C written on the stave and they go, oh, middle C. And I just laugh. I'm thinking, that is not a low note. Come on. So it's that
It
mindset.
is a low note for some of us, Margaret. Some of us get scared.
I just laugh. I'm thinking, come on. If that's low, you come and join my world. That's low. So I think it's just putting it into context where pitch-wise things are. You see what I mean? And not to think that when I play a low C on the bassoon, that's the really low. Because for me, it doesn't feel like that because I'm conditioned to be playing an octave lower than that.
Right.
Simo.
Okay,
so I think that helps being a doubler as well, actually.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're a doubler, then you haven't got time to think about, I've got to play a low D and all this. I just think it is what it is. You know, just get on with it.
Well, my husband is a percussionist and he has never made a reed. And so now we're in a fight. And actually,
you know, they've got too much time on their hands. There's all these toys that they have, the percussion world. You know,
I agree.
If he makes his own timpani sticks, I'm sure he could make a reed.
Yes. I'm going to tell him
I need you to play this interview for Chris.
Yeah. We're going to have marriage problems, courtesy of Margaret Cookhorn.
Well, my husband, if I come to the IDRS, my husband will be there as well. So
okay. Should we prepare a medal or a trophy?
He'll become an honorary member this summer.
He needs a plaque at the very least. So you've already shared with us so many amazing performances, but would you have one that you would consider your favorite? A favorite memory of a past performance?
Yeah, my concerto.
Oh,
I'm
perfect.
sorry, I have to say that. Because since doing that, it's opened doors for me personally. Kind of like being put out there, and I've been invited to do so many different things. I've done some interviews for the BBC Radio 3. I've done some interviews for them. I've done all kinds of things. Whereas before, I think I was kind of anonymous. You know, I'd be in the section playing and that was it. But having that opportunity, I think for me has opened quite a lot of doors. So I've ended up being on panels for all kinds of different musical things, from postgraduate awards to BBC Young Musician to, you know, all that kind of thing. I've coached on lots of different courses. But then also as well, I still keep up my freelance. So 2 years ago, I was invited to work with the Chamber Orchestra of Europe, which was just incredible. So I think since doing that, it's just opened the doors for me personally. That's why I have the best job.
So we love to ask this as our last question. What advice do you have for a young musician who aspires to have a career like yours?
I think it's important to be curious, to enjoy yourself. I think that's really important because throughout like my teenage years, and going to music college, I've just had a great time. I've really enjoyed and discovering music. And it's for me now, I work with people who are at school and seeing their faces, you know, or you know, we're doing the Rite of Spring at the school I work at. We're preparing to play the Rite of Spring. These are people aged 18 and under. And in the bassoon sectionals, their excitement of doing those trills and that kind of thing. I mean, they think, oh, this is so cool, miss. You know, and it's just that excitement of bringing music to them. This, you know, the music that we do a lot, but they may never have heard of. And one of the things in this school that I work at, where I'm in charge of bringing chamber music. So before Christmas, they played a movement from the Spohr Nonette. And for a lot of them, they thought, oh, this is really nice music, miss, and all that kind of thing. So I think it's, have fun on the way. I think the thing is, people who are listening to music, they say this is relaxing. Yet there's a lot of musicians who are really tense because it's
That's
not
right.
making them feel relaxed. You see, so I think it's a case of, yeah, it is what it is, and not to I don't know, engage the eyes too much with all these notes, and to maybe engage ears and just to take in what's out there. I mean, I'm just very, very lucky sitting in the orchestra I do. And what are we rehearsing tomorrow? Firebird,
Mm.
Stravinsky Firebird, and just this wonderful music that's out there. I feel, yeah, very, very lucky.
Margaret, thank you so much for joining us on Double Read Dish. This was an amazing conversation and such a fun way to spend an hour.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you both, and I hope to meet you in person.
We hope you enjoyed that episode and that you get upgraded on your next flight, and that you will follow us on social media and on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to rate and review. And don't forget to join us for the next episode. Galit, who will be joining us?
We had a great time talking to Henry Ward, principal oboe of the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra. Jackie, let's be halfway through this nerd parade.
Go sit in row 3.